Hello everyone, Castle95 here, and today we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling's Rosemary. The name Rosemary probably comes from the movie Rosemary's Baby from 1968, a movie based on realistic terror considered a classic that has inspired the tone for movies like The Exorcist or The Omen. This movie is about Rosemary, a woman that just finds out that she's about to give birth to the incarnation of Satan. The movie is characterized for making the audience feel like everything that happens in the movie can happen to us in the real life, by keeping everything as realistic and grounded as possible. Also making clear in every scene that Rosemary doesn't have control over her life or body. They always show her as a submissive woman. In fact, she's not allowed to educate herself, and every time she's close to get some freedom, the men and even the woman in the movie drag her back into being a tool for her husband or the cult to use. I say all this because it's too much of a coincidence that Impact's Rosemary has been obsessed with Maxwell, Matt Hardy's baby. In fact, the entire rivalry between DK and the Hardys moves around Rosemary trying to kidnap Maxwell more than the tag team title. Doing this, Rosemary is planning, in her words, taking Maxwell with his real family and make him Rosemary's baby. This theory gets stronger when Impact shows us Rosemary's backstory in 2016 during the whole Bram and Bromance stuff in the Road to Slammiversary 2016. In these flashbacks, we can see that Rosemary used to be an innocent girl and that her mother probably raised her in some kind of bubble where she could not really interact with the rest of the world. Even though she had the freedom to be educated and learn magic spells from books, and she even used to have a boyfriend called Johnny, who, as the movie's Rosemary's boyfriend, he only sees her as an object or an opportunity to have sex. Meanwhile, Impact's Rosemary actually wanted this relationship to be serious. In the movie, at first, Rosemary appears as someone innocent and even childish. She follows orders blindly, without questioning her authority figure, just as Impact's Rosemary in the flashbacks. We see her characterized in a childish and naive way. Meanwhile, in the movie, Rosemary sees herself involved with Satanists and a cult. Impact's Rosemary gets hit by reality when her cat dies and her mom threw it away in the garbage without telling her. Then she understands that she can't trust anybody, falls off the top of a tree, and starts hearing voices in her head telling her to look for black magic and become some kind of witch and take vengeance from Johnny and run out of home. These voices are called the Hive, and with them she took Crazy Steve, who was left alone by the menagerie, and controlled the monster Abyss. Together they were Decay, and they dominate the tag team division since their first day in Impact Wrestling during the Maximum Impact Tour 2016 until Bound for Glory of the same year. In her first appearances, Rosemary used a childish outfit to give the idea of someone innocent with girly dresses and pigtails that contrast with the face paint, the voice that she portrays, and the message that she tells to the audience. A message of chaos and destruction, saying things like, "We'll leave the wolves drowning in a pool of their own blood." And the way that she screams decay gives you the idea that there's something much more powerful about her. This gets more emphasized when you see Rosemary in the front and behind her Abyss and Crazy Steve complementing the concept of Rosemary, which is a mix between cuteness and destruction. Throughout her Impact career, we can see her grow and become more open to the world beyond Decay and the Hive, starting with dresses using brown, white, black and red. Then in the Road to Slammiversary 2016, she changes her outfit to something more revealing, using leather and patterns in her gear. At the same time, she takes Abyss and Steve to the next level, giving Steve a voice so he can defend himself and stand out. Meanwhile, she takes off Abyss's mask and tell him that he is beautiful the way he is. And this is the big message behind Rosemary. She has been called a monster, an outcast, a freak, and a bunch of other things, but she doesn't care because the Hive loves her the way she is. She's not only injecting confidence into Crazy Steve and Abyss, but into the fans that follow her either in Impact Wrestling or at the Independent. And talking about the Independent, we have to talk about the wrestler behind Rosemary, Courtney Rush, and she came up with the idea of the Demon Assassin before she signed with Impact Wrestling. She was known as the Canadian Suplex Machine, and she used to wear an Assassin's Creed inspired outfit to the ring. During a feud with Cherry Bomb or Ali, in Smash Wrestling in Canada, Cherry Bomb and Kimberly cut Courtney's hair off, and that's how the Demon Assassin came to life. And I know I'm leaving a lot of stuff out because the Cherry Bomb Courtney Rush feud in the Independents has years in the making, and I'm not going to cover all of that in this video. Anyway, back to Impact's Rosemary. After Bound for Glory, she started to wear and use the yellow color in her face paint and outfit. This is a symbol of independency. Week after week, she was separating herself from Decay until she entered fully into the Knockouts division, where she crowned herself the champion after beating Gail Kim's prodigy Jade in a 6 size of steel match. Jade was her biggest rival until Rosemary finished her in a street fight. And after that, Decay was finished by LAX. Abyss went back to be Joseph Parks, and Steve was going to NXT. So Rosemary was left alone. We can see during Decay's funeral organized by LAX that Rosemary wanted revenge, but also she finds herself forced to interact with people when the Hive orders her to protect Ali. That's when she gets in the way of Sienna for the first time, defending Ali and starting a campaign against Sienna in the Road to Slammiversary 2017. During these weeks, we can see a more open Rosemary. She's no longer carrying the weight of Decay, but now she is Decay. We can see her awkwardly interact with Ali and even getting more open to the fans. The acting and facial expressions of Rosemary during these weeks are amazing. Every close-up shows us a Rosemary that feels seduced by the fans cheering her name. She likes that feeling, but she doesn't want to fully embrace it. She's tempted to trust people like Ali and Braxton because they have helped Rosemary when she needed help, but at the same time she doesn't trust anybody. She's willing to protect Ali, but as we can see in the episode where they were having a tag team match against Sienna and Laurel Vaness, Rosemary doesn't tag a strategy with Ali or stays with her all the time. She only tells her I'll be there, and then she just appears under the ring and have a match. During this time, and especially after Slammiversary, we can see Rosemary questioning things. Maybe it isn't so wrong to feel emotions towards new people, or let the energy of the fans drive you through the match. Maybe the Hive wants her to interact more with people. Maybe this isn't a good idea and the reason that she lost at Slammiversary. Maybe she will now question the authority of the Hive, or maybe this is what her plan has looked like all along. Now let's jump out of the fiction for a moment and take a minute to appreciate the work that Courtney Rush puts into this, the wrestler behind Rosemary. And to portray a character like this demands a lot of effort, starting with the way she walks down the ramp, the way she looks at the camera every time, the production behind the appearance of Rosemary, all the promos that she cuts, and even she keeping the kayfabe during the majority of her interviews and independent shows. And especially now that Impact's Rosemary is getting out of her comfort zone, she is forced to do things that she has never done before, and Courtney Rush pulls off the Rosemary character perfectly. So that's it for this video. I hope you like it. Don't forget to comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.